So find the distance between 2 points. Distance formula. Let's write it out. D equals big square root x sub 2 minus x sub 1 close parentheses squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 close parentheses squared. I'm going to label this point over here my x sub 1 and that point my y sub 1. I'm going to label this point x sub 2 and y sub 2. It doesn't matter which point you call the 1s or the 2s as long as it's x, y, and as long as you have the same number for both of them. So if you're like, which one's my 1? Don't worry about that. Using green on green is not a good idea. Square root. X sub 2 I called 4 minus x sub 1 I called negative 2 close parentheses squared plus y sub 2 I called 3 minus y sub 1 is 1 close parentheses squared n. All right. D equals 4 minus negative 2. Double negative makes a positive. 6 squared. 3 minus 2 squared. What is that? 40? I don't know what the square root of 40 is. I don't know what the square root of 40 is. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to make a factor tree. Unmute yourself and give me 2 numbers. Now!
220.
Now!
Why does no one go with 10? 4 and 10.
2 and 20.
But 4 and 10.
But then the 2's already
No,
simplified.
Camila, that's cheating. Well, no one's helping me out. How about 4 and 10?
Can you not hear us when we unmute?
Thank you.
And then 2 and 2
Can you
and
hear us?
10 and 5 and 2
Can you hear
and
us?
circle
Can
and
hear us.
circle and 5 and circle. So you become 2 times 2 times 5 and another 2, I mean. Bring out one group of 2's. And I end up with 2 times the square root of 10. We're going to talk about midpoints and specific points. Look, it's the Joker. Why so serial, he says. Ha ha ha. Not going to go over it because we're out of time. Section 3, locating points and midpoints. Points and midpoints. This is going to sound super crazy. But if I give you a line segment and I call it AC, like air conditioning, the point directly in the middle is a midpoint. Okay. It's literally right in the middle. Like literally right in the middle. I know, Santi, thank you. Now, if I were to drink 50 ounces of water yesterday and 100 ounces of water today, what's my midpoint of 50 ounces yesterday and 100 today? Unmute yourself and tell me.
175.
75. How did you do that? What's another word that you could use?
Halfway, 50%.
Okay, that's fine. But no. It's the word average or mean. Midpoint is literally the average. Midpoint is the average of 2 things. Okay. When Mrs. Smith's class measured the amounts of rainfall each month during the school year, the minimum was 1.7 centimeters and the maximum rainfall was 6.9 centimeters. Before you rack your brains and try, what's exactly in the middle of 1.7 and 6.9, what you need to do is you need to take those 2 numbers and exactly what Santiago said. He said add and divide. Divide by what, Santi? Divide by what? You divide by a specific number. What number do you divide by? 2. Or the amount of numbers is correct. That's good. If we're going to talk about 2 objects, you divide by the amount of numbers. In probably every single problem that we do today, we're going to have 2 objects that we're focusing on at a time. So what I do is I add these 2 guys. I believe that gives me what? 8.6. Does that sound right to you? 8.6. Divide 8.6. What do you get?
4.3.
4.3 is correct. And let's attach a word to that because this is a real life problem.
Centimeters.
Centimeters. So don't rack your brains. You're finding the average. You're finding the mean. You're adding the objects that you have and you're dividing it by the number that you have. That's how you do the problem. That's midpoint. That's literally midpoint. Where's my... Here. There you are. Use the number line to find the coordinate of the midpoint of each segment. Okay, so BD, every letter here is represented by a number. Okay, what is, to find the coordinate of the midpoint, okay, what is B's value? Or where does, if this was like, for example, if we were marking, well, this is a number line. So where does B live?
0.
And where, good, where does D live?
18.
How many objects do I have? How many objects makes up BD? 2. Very good. What's 18 divided by 2? 9. Good. Good. That's it. I don't have a name for 9. What's that?
9.
Thank you. I don't have a name for 9. It lives here, but I think it only wants me to find the numerical value. You just tell me what I'm doing for A and C, and I'll just write it down, and we'll see if you're right. You're probably going to be right. What am I going to do for problem 3 here? You can check. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Athena, go ahead. What?
Me? Oh, so
I agree.
So you're gonna do negative
I
12
agree.
plus 6, and then divided by 12. But
No, I got you. Very good. I agree. I agree, and I agree. What is negative 12 plus 6? Sure is. And what's negative 6 divided by 2?
Negative
sure
3.
is. Good. And again, I don't have a letter for negative 3, which lives right there. It's just the coordinate. Okay? Super hard, right? The 9's name is Ted. That's nice. You guys are nuts. What a bunch of weirdos. Oh, speaking of weirdos, movie time, movie time. Get me that YouTube money. Get me that YouTube money. 1 view.
How much money do you make off of YouTube?
Okay, we are being asked to find the midpoint of these 2 points right here, 5, -8, and 3, 1. The midpoint is exactly what it sounds like. It's the middle. It's the average. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the midpoint formula right here, and I'm going to label my points x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2. It doesn't matter which one I call the ones, as long as I have x, y, and as long as I use the same number for each. So I could call this x sub 2, y sub 2, or this x sub 1, y sub 1, but I couldn't call this like x sub 1, y sub 2, or x sub 1, x sub 2, or something like that. I have to keep the 1's together and the 2's together, and x1 in order. So there's my midpoint formula. I'm just going to plug and chug. X sub 1 was 5. I'm going to add x sub 2, which is 3. All of that divided by 2. Y sub 1, which is -8. And I'm going to add y sub 2, which is 1. All of that divided by 2. Add numbers in the numerator. 5 plus 3 is 8. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. And simplify. 8 over 2 is 4. Negative 7 over 2 is negative 3.5. You can leave it as a fraction if you want, but with points, decimals are usually easier because it helps you visualize where the point goes better. That's it. All right, so that was the midpoint formula. The midpoint formula, I was able to describe this morning what the distance formula was using more triangular terms. Okay, the reason why it was this guy minus that guy and squared is because it literally takes itself from Pythagorean theorem. And you can kind of visualize, if I give you 2 points, you can visualize the length of the one by doing that number minus that number. So some of you, when I explained it that way, maybe you were like, that makes sense. And some of you, maybe you were like, I have no clue. And that's okay. This is a little easier to understand. If I give you 2 points, then the x value between those 2 points is literally going to be right in the middle. And the y value of those 2 points is literally going to be right in the middle. And the way you find something that's right in the middle is you add them up and divide by how many you have. And in the case of Santiago, you divide by 2. So that's our formula. You have it in your notes. Great. So I can look at these and know exactly right away that I have 5.5 and 0. Now, what kind of sorcery allowed me to do that? No sorcery whatsoever. In my mind, I add up the x values, 7 and 4, 11, divide that by 2, 5.5. I also add the y values, 0, divide that by 2, 0, done. But that's not good enough. Let's show our work because we're good students. We're good students. My formula is x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2, average, and y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. If I labeled, and I'm a big labeler, so I'm going to label my points. I always do that, and shame on me for not labeling them right away. Boy, is my face red. Boy, is my face red. Now that I've labeled it, I can write down the fact that x sub 1 is 7. X sub 2 is 4. Divide that by 2. Y sub 1 is 1 plus y sub 2 is negative 1. I know it looks sloppy, but it's not about the process. It's about the product. Amen? That gives me 11 over 2 and 0 over 2. And just like I predicted, 5.5 and 0. Mr. Parrott, you always put things in fractions. Why change now? Because it's easier to graph if you view it as a decimal. And if you left it as a fraction, I don't care. So I'm just going to sit back and look pretty for a minute and let you guys try 5. And you can put your answers in the chat. Don't blurt it out yet. I'm just going to sit back, and whether you do it mentally or whether you do it on paper, I don't care. I want you to do it on your own and put it in the chat, and don't look at the chat until you are personally done. Somebody put the answer in the chat, please. 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 Boy, boy. I'm just going to start writing things down, and hopefully you guys beat me. Who left? Ooh, now all of our friends are coming out with answers. Ooh, one of them has a different answer than one of our friends. One of them has a different answer. Who's right? Who's wrong? What's 8 over 2? Huh? What?
4.
Mm-hmm. And what's, he forgot the neg. What is negative 11 over 2? As a decimal.
Negative 5.5.
Hey! Very good, kids. Very good. Midpoint. It's so easy. Problem 6 and problem 7. Find the measure of LM if M is a midpoint. Okay, so let's draw out 6, what we have so far. Let's draw out 6. I know people like to tell me I'm drawing. Is this what they mean? I draw pictures? Is that what they mean when they tell me I'm drawing? For the 3, no. For the 3 young ladies that are in my adult class, drawing is slang for like being ridiculous or being foolish or unfair. Slang gang, that's right. Like if I were to be like, hey, Santiago, you're out of here. He might say, Mr. Parrish, you're drawing. And he would be right because I'm being ridiculous. M is supposed to be the midpoint of LN. Ooh, the natural log. You'll learn that next year. LM. Okay, so this left chunk is 3x minus 2. MN is 2x plus 1. I hate cursing, but how the heck am I supposed to do this problem? How in the HE double hockey sticks with no double hockey sticks am I supposed to do this problem? I mean, what does the midpoint mean for this part of the line versus that part of the line? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? It's the middle. So what can you tell me about LM and MN? What can you tell me about LM and MN? Oh, you guys are killing me today. M is the midpoint. If I were to take a piece of spaghetti and if I were to go to the midpoint and smash them in half, tell me about each point or each side. You guys are killing me. I'm just hoping everybody's muted and I can't hear you. They're equal to each other. 3x minus 2 equals 2x plus 1. When you have a midpoint, if you have a midpoint, right, so here's your line. If you have a midpoint, it literally cuts your major line into 2 equal parts. So now it's an easy problem. Minus 2x minus 2x, you get x minus 2 equals 1. Add 2, x equals 3. Am I done? Yes or no? Am I done this problem?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Is it asking me to find x? I mean, is that what the directions state? Find x. No, it's asking me to find what? LM. So LM is 3x minus 2. What did I just find out? If LM is 3x minus 2, what can I do? X is 3. Good. So if I have 3x plus 2, then LM is going to be 3 times 3 plus 2. And doing mental math, you tell me what LM becomes. Good. We're all saying it in the chat. We're all scared to use our voices. Is it because you watched the debate last night and being interrupted frightens you? I'll tell you what, if you watched that debate last night, you probably didn't sleep for a long time. Because of voice cracks. Santi, I have a story to tell you guys one day about voice cracks. It was the worst moment of my entire life. It wasn't 4 hours, it was 1.5, Russell. Shame on you for not being caught up in politics, even though you can't vote. Find the coordinates. Find the coordinates of G if F is the point 3.5, and it's also the midpoint. Oh no, this is weird. So G is the midpoint. So let's set this up. We've never done this problem before. G is the midpoint. Oh, wait a minute. Find the coordinates of G. Oh, never mind. This is easy. All we have to do is find the midpoint. I thought we were working like different. All right. Well, I'll give you guys a head start. I'm finding the midpoint. I'll give you guys a head start, and hopefully we come out with the same answer. I'm just not going to tell. I'm not going to say anything. Stop talking in the chat. Should have scrap paper and pencil, and you should be doing this problem right here. You should be doing it ahead of me. There's my midpoint formula. I labeled everything. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. That's all right. We'll just find the midpoint anyway, and maybe for a warm-up tomorrow, I'll do a problem like this. I am doing it wrong. Yeah, that is a 3.5. All right, start putting your answers in the chat. It is a 7. Good, Keon. So midpoint is exactly what it sounds like. It's the average. Unfortunately, I did do 7 wrong. I thought I misread it at first, but I actually read it correctly at first and then went to the wrong thing. 7's a weird problem. Maybe that's something that we can do tomorrow as a warm-up, a problem like it. So we just went with the midpoint because, you know, we are running out of time. and I want to make sure that we're all at least getting this part. I think that might be the end. No. How much more do I have? Well, we can't do that. Can't do that. Okay. Let's take a look at 8 and 9. And we'll take a look at that phrase, and that'll be it for the day. Maybe we can only do 8. We'll see. Find the point N on WZ. So, okay, so we don't even know. We don't even know pretty much anything. N's not there, but it's not asking us to find the number line. So I'm going to do 8, and I want you to try 9. Find the point N on WZ. That is 1/3 the distance from W to Z. Well, first off, what is the difference between W to Z? What is the full distance? If you can blurt it out or if you could type it out. What is the full distance from W to Z? 9. Good. Several of you said 9. How did you do that? Because the distance is found by taking the large number and subtracting the small number, so I know that my distance is 9. 1/3 of 9 is how far? What is 1/3 of 9? 3. So if I'm supposed to find... So this is taking the idea of a midpoint and calling it a third point. Okay? So my point N is going to be 1/3 from W to Z. What number is 3 dots away from W to Z? What number is 3 dots away from W to Z? Nope. You are, Santiago, you're thinking beyond Z. Start at W. There's my 3 spaces. It's -2. So it's asking me find N if WZ is 9 units long and N is 1/3 away from W. Well, N is 3 units away from W, which means N is -2. So I think some of you are looking for a letter, but we're looking for a number here. So let's take a look at this guy. Let's take a look at problem 9. Erase this whole mess. Find the point M on XY. What should I do first? Unmute yourself or put it in the chat. What should I do if it talks about XY? What did I do for problem 8? Hey, your silence is killing me today. I'm going to find out the distance from X to Y. The distance from X to Y is what? 8. Good. So the distance from X to Y is 8. What's 1/4 of that distance? 2. X is at -1. If I travel 2 spaces, where will I end up? And I'm going to call that M. Where will I end up if I travel 2 spaces? At 1. Good. Not a fan of these problems, but there they are. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at a vocab word. And that word is bisect. Bisect means you take something and you cut it in half. Okay, now if we were in a normal class, what we would do is we would make what's called a construction, and we haven't had that opportunity to do that yet. So we would actually draw out a line that cuts another line into 2 equal parts. But there's really no way that we can do that virtually. We'll just do all of the constructions in person when we get in person. But that is it for the day.